All right, guys, welcome to another edition of Submission Radio Live. And unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances, my friend Bas Rutten, El Guapo himself, is not able to make it here today. He will be rescheduled to another date. And it's, nothing to do with anything to do with him. It's just sometimes life doesn't work out in certain ways. And I can't wait to have him on. But I have been saved. I have been saved by two of my friends in the game. You know them from their amazing work. Introducing first, this next man is so ridiculously good looking that women were throwing themselves at him at a 2 a.m. kebab shop in Sydney in front of me. He, of course, said no, but I was nevertheless impressed. The one and only Jose Youngs. Thanks for making this a GQ edition of Submission Radio, my friend.
Anytime, homie. I do miss that kebab shop in Sydney. We spent way too much money on pretty much the entire menu.
You bought every single thing, you sicko.
Yeah, I did. That's a true
story. How do you spend too much money on a kebab shop? It's kebabs.
It was Dennis and I got out of the fights, and we were like, what's open that isn't crowded? And we're like, there it is. And then we're like, give me everything.
Yeah, it's not the first time, and it wasn't the last time. And the next man who already has spoken, but I just got to say this about this next man. Obviously, he was on earlier this week. He's an absolute legend. He'll always tell you why. And if you disagree, it ain't nothing but a heartache. It ain't nothing but a mistake. He doesn't ever want to hear you say, I want it that way. Jed Meshew, welcome back to Submission Radio.
I mean, just now my last two appearances, you have introed me with terrific musical accompaniment, or the lyrics, at least. Maybe we're not getting the Backstreet Boys here because this would, then the video gets demonetized. It's the whole thing, but love it. I love the energy.
Thank you. Thank you so much, gentlemen. We did a talent show when I was in year one, and I was one of the Backstreet Boys. That made me Kevin, and we did Backstreet's Back, but Kevin doesn't sing.
Nope.
And Backstreet's Back, and then the boys wouldn't let me say anything, so I just had to stand there in the back with like this face paint on, going like this, and then my mom was clapping loudly like a crazy Ukrainian lady.
Is Kevin the one with the goatee?
Yeah, he's the
I
one
just
with
had
the
to
goatee.
Google
He's
it.
like
Yes.
20 years older. He's like 20 years older than everybody else. Like
Is
he's
he
like,
really?
he's like the nut, but now he looks better than everybody else. Everyone else is like half dead. Anyway.
Yeah,
man, I didn't. When you said that, I immediately was like, "Who is Kevin in the Backstreet Boys?"
Kevin's the worst guy. I was basically not even in the band. Guys, speaking of guys that aren't even in the band, some interesting news coming just on the wire earlier, and I want to get your reaction to it. Alex Pereira sent out a tweet, right? He said he was a little bit disgruntled with the UFC. Since then, he's gone back and sort of rescinded it, said that he got hacked. But I want to go to you first, Jed. When you first saw the tweet, what was your reaction? And do you think that this is just Alex trying to kind of go back a little bit on things? Or do you actually believe that this hacking might have been what happened?
My first reaction was, this is weird, because it's like a very un-Alex Pereira thing to do, right? Like this is, it's, oh, well, I'm having issues. Like this is a Connor move, right? What the UFC has told me is unacceptable. I retire. And that feels very anathema to how Poatan sort of carries himself in his business. And I also just couldn't even like figure out what it would be about, right? Like if you're just trying to suss out like what that could have been about, it's like, what would it be? Like the UFC will let him do just about whatever he wants because he's one of the very few stars they have. And I think what Poatan wants is to run it back with Magomed Ankalaev. So unless there's like they're trying to pay him less or something, I just don't know what that would be. And then he comes out and says it's been a hacking, and I'm a little skeptical of that in general, just because like usually when people hack you, like they're going to do a crypto scam, or
they're not exactly sending that kind of message.
It's going to be like that, or just like somebody being like butts or whatever. It's like something really silly and stupid. And this feels like too pointed. So if it was like a true hacking, it's pretty high level of like, what can I do that will make headlines about this, but will ultimately be nonsense, but people might believe it? That's like pretty sophisticated sort of troll work there. But it also still feels really anti how Poatan has gotten down his whole career. So I don't know where to settle on it. You could convince me either is true.
It's interesting, Jose, as well, because with Alex, he's in an interesting position for the first time in his UFC run. Sure, he's lost to Israel before he came back, obviously, and won. But this is one of those ones where Ankalaev really kind of made him look bad. And we don't know what's going to happen in this rematch. A lot of people think it's going to happen again. He's kind of not in this position, really, where he can save a card because he's still stuck in this light heavyweight thing. So he's kind of not in the best time. But then when you're beating a drum with Jiri in Japan, how can you be in a bad mood? The terminology in this, Jose, is I always answered the UFC calls, but they wanted to play with me. We can do that. I've never spoken poorly of the UFC, but with what I've just heard, I'm disheartened. I've already had thoughts of not fighting anymore. I don't know. What did you make of the way this was written and the way it was put out?
Well, first of all, poor choice of graphic for who you had as a guest on the show.
I know. We got 2 MMA fighting guys. You guys, by the way, shout out to Jose. He does an amazing job running the socials for MMA fighting too.
We do our best.
Best in the game.
So repeat the question again. Sorry.
Give me your thoughts on the way this was written as the social media god.
If it's clearly Alex Pereira did not write it. I mean, that much is obvious. So either someone hacked him or he had someone write it out for him. And I'm very much in the same boat as Jed. You could convince me either way, because if this is a true hacking, that is such a deliberate tweet. Like, that is so specific to, like, that is a niche level MMA tweet. That's not like, oh, he's just going to jump on and say, F Donald Trump, F Trudeau, I love blah, blah, blah. Like, this is so specific to Alex Pereira that someone with deep knowledge of the UFC and MMA world over the last 2-3 years, and maybe even from the kickboxing days, either hacked this on or Alex Pereira was very disgruntled. But we've seen this before. If Alex actually did post that, because remember, Dustin Poirier claimed he wasn't going to fight Benoit Saint-Denis because the numbers weren't right or whatever, and then 12 hours later, maybe even less, he said he was fighting him, and then he didn't really want to elaborate after the fact. So this is nothing new. Either way, MMA fighters have been hacked, and they've either changed their mind or the UFC's gone into their ears and giving them what they want. But I think the one thing we can all agree is Alex Pereira is not the one that was sitting there typing out that very specifically worded English tweet.
Probably ChatGPT did anyway.
Maybe.
ChatGPT chat. I was gonna say, Jed, what do you think of the position that Alex is in right now, though? Right, not the greatest position.
He's in a great position.
He's in a great position going into another fight with Ankalaev.
I don't think he if he wants to do that, he didn't have to. Alex Pereira is just one of the very few fighters I think in the promotion right now who's pretty unencumbered. He can kind of do whatever he wants. I will be surprised, and I guess I won't be that surprised because it's what he has talked about. It seems like that's where the energy is. If I were in Poatan's camp, I'd be like, dude, why are you going to fight Ankalaev again? Who cares? Truly, who is excited or cares about that? Winning the belt has cachet, but we saw exactly when he lost to Izzy in the rematch, he was like, yeah, I'm done. I'm just going to go do this other thing. And I don't know why Pereira wouldn't do this right now and just be like, hey, I lost, could have done better. Wasn't my best effort. I could probably win if we ran it back. But I'm just not that interested. I'm going to move up to heavyweight. I was talking about moving up to heavyweight before. Why not? I don't have that many years left in my career. I think that would just be a better thing for him, because I don't know. Some fighters who don't have belts are able to negotiate pay-per-view points. I suspect Alex Pereira is one of those people at this point in time where he can say, hey, I want a piece. I'm going to headline this event. I want a piece of it. Based on recent reporting, it's not even clear how good pay-per-view points are for fighters anymore. Seems like the pay-per-view buys are down pretty massively. So he can just kind of negotiate his price. And if I'm in Poatan's corner, I'd be like, what do we think is more upside here? We go fight Magomed Ankalaev. Maybe we win the belt. It's a belt we've already had. If we win it, then I guess we're fighting Carlos Ulberg or a trilogy fight with Ankalaev. But are people really going to want that? That feels the Ankalaev fight feels like a really uncreative way to approach your career. This is, we're just checking the boxes because this is the expectation. And that's really not been Alex Pereira's MO. He has been a guy who captivates our imagination by doing cool stuff, by saying, hey, I'll headline International Fight Week on a month's notice. I got that. Oh, you need someone to save 300? Bet. Like, I don't know. The whole talk was, I beat Ankalaev. Now let's try and do something no one has ever done. To me, there is just no reason that he doesn't need champ status. Say, hey, it's Ankalaev's. I'm going up to heavyweight. Book me against Jailton Almeida or whoever it is, whatever it's going to take to get me to Tom Aspinall, and I'll do that. Or if I was Poaton's corner, what I would really be saying, and this is a harder one to pull off, but I think that this is the ultimate upside move. He should just be trying to fight John Jones. John doesn't want to fight Tom Aspinall. John's not going to fight Tom. Just straight up DM John and be like, hey man, you and I both pretty clearly want to fight each other. Just bail on the belt. Vacate the title. Tell the UFC, hey, I'm giving it up. It's Tom's belt. Me and Pereira, we don't have belts. We'll fight for the coolest fighter alive belt or whatever. Like, we can make up our own BMF title. We just want to fight each other. Belts aren't involved, so this is not blocking anything else. Let us fight each other. That would be a monster event. It's probably the biggest fight the sport can make right now, other than maybe Ilya Islam. And I actually am not even sure that Ilya Islam would be bigger than that. And it's just like, cool. To me, fighting Ankalaev again is so, it's just like the least interesting thing Pereira could do. I don't know why he'd want to be doing that.
It's actually a pretty good point, Jed. We only have him for a certain period of time as well. Do we really need to see the Ankalaev rematch? I mean, Ankalaev could probably go on and fight a bunch of people. Jose, if it's not John Jones, who else do you think Alex Pereira could fight?
It's Alex or Ankalaev. It's Ankalaev or John Jones. Those are the only two that I would be interested in. Like, yeah, you could give him Carlos Oliver, you could give him Jailton Almeida, but do we want to see Alex Pereira fight an incredibly high-level black belt who is equally as physically strong as him? I mean, it's a cool fight. I think
it'd be pretty cool, man.
It'd be a sick fight. I think Jailton Almeida eats him alive, and if your sole reason of making that fight is to make Jailton a star, great. By all means, do that. But I don't think the UFC wants to do that. I think you either fight John or you fight Ankalaev, because who's left at light heavyweight after that? Alberg would be the highest one up. I think Alberg could fight Yuri Prohaska. I think that fight is a lot of fun. I guess the Jamal Khalil Roundtree, but Alex has beaten them twice. John don't need the belt. Alex don't need the belt. It's one of those few non-title fights that could headline Madison Square Garden without a title fight for
easily.
Sure. That could headline any arena in America without a title, and so it's John or Ankalaev. I'm fine with either one.
Do you agree? Is that the biggest fight in the sport?
I think John.
No titles involved, just John versus Alex.
I think John Tom, I think, is bigger right now.
You do? Okay.
Yeah.
What about Topuria and Islam if you take the belt away? No.
If you take the belts away,
yeah.
I mean, that's still a sick fight because they're both superstars. You have the Habib connection with Islam. Ilya is on his way to being the Spanish Conor in terms of popularity. Yeah, that could probably do it. I honestly, Dricus Hamza could probably do it too, because there's just interest in those fights.
Yeah. Then it's interesting. But let me ask you this, fellas. What about because let's say John Jones loses to Tom Aspinall. This is a fight, or Alex loses again. This is still a fight that could happen down the road. What about like a Cyril Gane Alex Pereira fight? Why not just see where he's at heavyweight wise and set him up for this potential fight? We're not doing nothing with Gane.
I'll accept that fight if it means I'll accept Cyril Gane Alex Pereira only because John and Tom are tied up fighting each other. If we get John Tom and the silver medal is Alex Pereira has to fight Cyril Gane, fine. I'll watch any fight if it means we get John Tom.
But it's funny because if Cyril Gane's like unavailable, you could almost be like, hey, Alex Pereira is going to fight Tom Aspinall because John Jones decided not to fight him last second, right? Like you could kind of slot him in there. Are there any heavyweight contenders at the moment? Anyone in heavyweight?
Jailton.
That's the thing. Like you would just have to acknowledge that it's a completely undeserved title fight. I think nobody would be that upset about it because it would be cool if you just slotted him in against Tom. But like, in my head, that's where I was like, just do the Jailton. Like if you can't do John, Jailton's a winnable heavyweight fight, and it is just like what you just did. You win one fight over a top 5 guy, and now you can fight for the belt. And so you could do the same thing with Cyril, but the the energy around Cyril Gane is just all bad right now. And so it's not like if Cyril wins like a tepid kickboxing decision or something, that'll just be the worst outcome. Whereas at least if Jailton's going to win, he's probably going to tackle and tap him. But also if Jailton can't tackle and tap him, Alex is going to kill him. So like, to me, that would just be, if you're going to do the heavyweight fight, it's Jailton, or you just do the John Jones fight, because that's a big fight. And as long as John doesn't have the belt, it's not a problem.
Speaking of weird energies, man, Bo Nickal, right? He's copped it from everybody after this loss this past week. And I wanted to bring up this interview that he did with Ariel Helwani, where we kind of saw a bit of an interesting perspective from Bo Nickal right here. He said things like, I think that this loss is nothing but a learning opportunity and an experience that I think will help me grow and improve and get better. He spoke about how it was kind of an eye-opening situation for him, how he wants to get back in the gym and improve. How he's not just here to win fights. He's happy to lose a few, and he's happy to stick around, and he's happy to grow in the sport. Jose, this is everything you kind of want to hear from Bo Nickal in a situation like this, right? Like we actually thought, I had a feeling we'd hear something like, oh, I was a bit sick. I didn't feel good. Some of this, oh, maybe like I could still destroy everyone. This was a humble kind of Bo Nickal that kind of didn't open up, but gave us a winning kind of mentality that we weren't really expecting on this Ariel Helwani show. The question is, though, is this just him playing the part, or do you actually believe the stuff that he was saying?
I think Bo talked himself into believing it. I think he had to convince himself of what he said, and now I don't think he believed it right away, and then he did a bit of convincing. But the way he's talking, the way he's sounding, it sounds like he wrestled at Penn State in Division I and clearly had media training. He was hyper confident leading into all of his fights. He said he would just fight Dricus now. He says he can't wait for him to fight Hamza. He'd be like a -1,000 favorite or something like that. He was like, oh, who are you fighting at 5-0? I'm in the UFC. That sounds like a guy who just, is trying to build himself up through, his media training at Penn State, and he loses and he just reverts right back into it. It's a lot of answers that are non-answers. Like we have heard these answers 1,000 times from like NFL or MLB or NBA post-fight press conferences. You're like, if LeBron James said that, it would be non-news. It's like, yes, that's what LeBron James always says. It's the fact that we're hearing it from Bo Nickal in an MMA fight that makes it weird, because we don't hear MMA fighters talk like this. Sean Brady talked like it to an extent where he's like, I'm glad I lost to Belal because being undefeated had so much pressure, and now that pressure is off. But it just sounds like how every American athlete talks when they win or lose. We're just not accustomed to that in MMA. We're usually used to a bit more character and, rough around the edges folk.
What do you think, Jed? Do you think that this is a good sign for things to come for Bo Nickal? How do you feel? Do you think he was smart in the way he was sort of able to deal with this interview? I feel like the perception's improved a little.
I think Jose nailed it, and that he's an adult. This is an adult who's a professional, who is not just like a ne'er-do-well who took up fighting and got to the UFC. He, like in literally every other American sport, once you make it into the actual professionals, one, you're no longer Uber driving to like survive. So I guess other sports have that on MMA as well, but you get media training. Like they don't just run you out in front of media to say that Hitler's a great guy or whatever. Like they're just, because they're real like organizations who understand that there are consequences to these things. And he is a guy who had that at Penn State and knew how to take it and like knew how to deal with this situation, because I think that he said all the right things. He said the best that we can expect from him in this circumstance was, hey, I lost. I thought I was ready. I wasn't. Full credit to him. He didn't come out and say, I was injured. I broke my foot. All these is like, no. I lost to a dude who has been fighting a lot longer than me. He showed me some stuff I wasn't prepared for. I'm not quitting. This is people lose. It's a great lesson. Go back to the drawing board, work, improve, and get back in there. And so got to take him at his word until he gives us a reason not to believe it. This is like exactly the right, even to the point where he's like, I don't regret what I did beforehand. I don't regret saying that I would be a minus 1,000 favorite over Hamzat. Like, I believe in myself, and I'll believe in myself forever. Like, I'm pro that, right? Like, stand on your business and keep the same energy. And he did. And so I respect how he's handled this. I sincerely hope that this is not just like lip service, that he is actually going to learn from this in a meaningful way. I have some concerns just strictly over his ability to get hit, because this is really the first fight he has been like hit, and he didn't handle it well. And there are just like, some people just can't do that. I don't know if Bo Nickal is going to be that way, but like the history of the sport, I talked about this on our post show. Like, there are dudes who, if you've trained ever, you go into gyms, there are guys in gyms all across the world who are unbelievable. And you're like, why is that dude not a world beater? Like, why is that guy not in the UFC? And there's just the live fire of actually getting hit. Some people physiologically or mentally can't handle it. I hope Bo is not that one. Like, Brock was kind of that way, and Brock still managed to win the heavyweight title. So as long as Bo doesn't have like that big a blocker and he does take the right lessons, I think he'll be fine. And certainly the way he has handled this gives me a lot of confidence that can be true.
Yeah, I like when he said that, look, I believe in myself. I'm backing myself. Jose, do you think that the fans are a bit harsh on Bo? Like, do you think, let me ask you this, like, the stuff that he said about Hamza, the stuff that he said about blah, 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 right? Like, I would be the favorite. I would beat them. It's like, okay, but this is a guy that, like, we're in fighting here. Any fighter you ask in any gym, basically, who's an active fighter, who's professional, is going to tell you he thinks they can beat the best in the world, right? Like, are people just coming down too hard on this guy for some of the stuff that he said?
I think so, but I also don't feel bad, because you can't say what you said and then not have to deal with the consequences of what you said. So while I do think, like, Bo lost 4 or 5 days ago, and we're still talking about him, so he's clearly an important figure in the sport if he's drumming up.
It was massive. It's like Ronda Rousey lost, a few other people
easily
lost.
The biggest thing that happened.
I was going to
nothing
say,
to talk about except for him.
I did all the social for PFL, the Times Square Boxing, Karate Combat, UFC, Canelo, and Inoue. I did all those 6 shows for our site, and without question, the most engaging content we put out was Bo Nickal losing, not René Derrida winning, but Bo Nickal losing. That is the narrative that fans wanted. So fans, no matter how much you hate on him, are clearly, he has struck a chord with someone. And the most important thing in professional wrestling or MMA or any sport where you have to convince people to watch you, you don't want silence. You don't want nothing. You want some sort of visceral reaction. And Bo Nickal's got it. So I didn't care what he was saying to begin with. I'm like, cool, say what you're not. He's not saying Hitler was a good person. He's not saying, Colin Kaepernick needs to go to jail for kneeling. No, he's saying, I think I should be minus. Great, cool. You're confident. You lose. You dealt with it. We move on. But I can guarantee you his next fight is going to be the most talked about fight on the card, unless like an Alex Pereira. Unless he's on Tom John undercard, Bo Nickal is going to be without question the most talked about fighter on that whole event.
It's going to be a big sweepstakes for the people in that division trying to get that fight right. Like, who's going to try and lock it in? Jed, who do you put up next against Bo Nickal in your opinion? He wants to be in there as soon as possible. And do you believe we can see him return to the top 15 again?
I definitely think we can see him return to the top 15. This is a good question. Let me pull up some.
Because I was going through names and I'm like, nah, not this guy, right, Jose? Like, I was like looking at names. I'm like, let's not do this guy now. Let's, like, a lot of the names that I would have put up against him after that performance, I'm like, nah, we need to find someone that he can actually kind of get some reps in against at the very least, right?
So that is what I mean. So to Jose's point, I put up a video on my personal TikTok of me talking about Bo Nickal before and saying I think RDR is going to win because Bo doesn't know how to fight yet. And it's like by far the most engagement I've ever got on TikTok. People like want to do it. And like the whole point of my argument before this fight. And so like looks really smart in hindsight, but I genuinely believed it then and I still believe it now is he doesn't know how to fight. Bo Nickal knows how to wrestle unbelievably well. And there's obviously a lot of overlap in being a high level combat sport athlete and a high level wrestler, but it's not the same as fighting. He does not know how to fight and he needs to learn to fight. And the only way you learn by doing. You do not get better at fighting only by being in the gym. You mostly get better at fighting by fighting, and then you develop skills in the gym. And so, like, that was my favorite part of his whole response, was saying, I want to fight as soon as possible. I want to try and fight at least a couple more times this year. He has simply been too inactive for this early stage of his career. And honestly, like, I don't care. I don't think he should touch anybody like in the top 20. You should spend the next year just giving him literally mileage reps against people. And so you can kind of throw a dart and hit anybody in the top 50 or whatever. But, you know, this weekend, Bruno Silva's fighting Marc-Andre Barrio. Loser or winner of that. Loser's probably getting walking papers because they're both on big losing streaks. Winner of that fight, Bo Nickal. Sure. Like, that is, just get him people to physically learn how to fight against, because like the biggest part of all of this is he learned what getting hit was like against one of the 10 best dudes in the world. And that's why he lost. If the top 30 dude punches him in the stomach, like knees him in the stomach a bunch, and suddenly he's saying, oh shit, this hurt. Like, this isn't good. I've never been here before. Maybe he can find a way to grit through that and work through that against somebody less talented, because he's not fighting one of the 10 best guys in the world. He's fighting the 50th best guy. He just hadn't had that opportunity. And so put him in against a bunch of top 50 guys and let him figure out what fight sport is about.
I saw some reports, by the way, fellas, and I don't know how official it is, but, you know, it could be cool if it comes together about Robert Whittaker and RDR potentially being the next fight. I don't know if anything's really been confirmed yet. But, you know, we know Robert Whittaker needs to get back in there. Time-wise, it could be a cool fight. Let's say that is the next fight, Jose. Would you be happy to see that being the next fight? And how do you think a Robert Whittaker RDR fight even looks?
I like that fight a lot for both men. I think RDR deserves a former champion, like a high-level
guy. It's a big name. It's a good big name for RDR, right? Like, this is good.
It's a huge name. As of now, RDR has to be on the short list for Fighter of the Year. You know, he's been incredibly active. He's fighting like popular, like Kevin Holland, very popular. Gerald Meerschaert is Gerald Meerschaert, but he's at least a name people recognize. You saw what happened to Hamzat after he knocked out Gerald Meerschaert, and then he goes out there and beats Bo Nickal, who's probably more popular than any other fighter not in Israel Adesanya in the middleweight division, including Dricus. Probably Sean Strickland's very popular as well. But I know they have that big Perth card they keep teasing. If it's not a pay-per-view, if Jack Della Maddalena doesn't beat Belal Muhammad, I would, Jack could obviously headline that card. But if they don't have Jack available, or Jack doesn't have a big enough dancing partner to headline a card, I am all in on Robert Whittaker versus RDR as the headliner of a potential Australia card. Robert Whittaker 100% deserves to finally get another opportunity to fight in Australia. RDR seems down to clown against anybody in the middleweight division. I think that's a sick fight. It would just really depend on if those guys just don't want to wait for a long time, because I know there's rumors of them going to Nashville. They obviously have the Atlanta fight night, the Chicago card that is most likely going to be announced at some point. I just want to see that as a 5-round fight. I don't want it as a co-main or a main card fight. I think that is a really excellent fight night main event for wherever that happens.
Jed, let's say that is the fight. How do you see a fight going between RDR and Robert Whittaker?
I think that's a perfect fight. I thought, like, afterwards, I was like, I think that they would just go Cannonier because, like, it just feels like the move. But RDR Whittaker is way better. Like, obviously, it's certainly better for RDR. I really just like the fights. It would be Whittaker's first fight since getting his face broken. RDR, obviously, a very talented grappler. So, like, there's a lot of dynamics going. Also, RDR is just on this sort of DDP-esque run since coming to the UFC of, like, being a little weird, but also finishing everybody. So you can't be like, oh, he's not good. You can just be like, he looks funny when he beats the shit out of these people. And, like, if he just follows the DDP footsteps of, I will actually go and just clown Robert Whittaker on the ground somehow, that would be miraculous. And it would set up my second most, like, anticipated fight that can be made in the sport right now of DDP versus RDR. So I think the fight is amazing. If it happens, I mean, I'll probably pick RDR just because he's been my guy for a really long time. but like Whittaker is so difficult to beat. It's why only the best fighters in the world have beaten him.
Yeah.
And I know Khamzat made it look like super easy to beat him, but Khamzat's also Khamzat. And I think Whittaker is certainly not at his best anymore. But, you know, the last time it seemed like, oh, maybe Whittaker might be in trouble here, he obliterated Ikram Askarov, who is a very talented middleweight as well. So Whittaker still has juice in the tank. I wouldn't be shocked if he could win it, but momentum's with RDR, and I have been beating the drum longer than I think anybody at MMA fighting, certainly, on the Reiner de Ritter plan. And so I'm gonna back him all the way to the belt.
It's interesting as well because Robert Whittaker's always fighting injured, right? Like even in that win that you mentioned, the bounce back one, he was about to pull out because he had to have some kind of mouth surgery there.
Yeah, and then he didn't, and then he fought Khamzat, and his face got broken.
Yeah, and DDP had a knee injury, right? And then he fought DDP. He was not 100% for that either. So now he's had a bit of a break. It looks like Robert Whittaker's fixed some stuff up. He's just fresh from Thailand. So let's see. I hope we get a healthy Robert Whittaker so we get a good contest here. If RDR does win here, does this just slot him into the right spot right here for a potential? Like, is that it? Like, if he beats Robert Whittaker, does that just slot him right in there for a title shot, Jose? Like, where does that put RDR if he's able to have an impressive win?
I wouldn't complain if they make that fight, but I think it would be. And I know we don't like to use the word deserve in MMA, but you know, Imavov and Carvalho have been putting in a lot of work over the last 2 years. Imavov just knocked out Israel Adesanya. He beat Brandon Allen. Fluffy Hernandez is without question the most forgotten man in the division because that dude is a sick fighter and no one's trying to fight him. And if they actually do pull this Guadalajara fight card off, one of these top middleweights is going to have to fight Fluffy Hernandez in Mexico. If Carvalho gets to fight Imavov, that is clearly a number one contender fight. They both beaten everyone else put in front of them. Carvalho hasn't lost in the UFC. But I say that, and by far the most interesting fight would be RDR.
Yeah, especially because don't forget, RDR's trained with both DDP and Khamzat. He was on this show a couple of days ago talking about how he'd love to fight Khamzat, how he thinks he'd do quite well in that fight. So he knows something that we don't, boys. And with DDP, he's kind of broken down a few times and even told me he kind of knows the key to kind of beating DDP after being in there with him, right?
Here's the thing. We complain when the UFC makes these strange title fights. You're like, why did they make this title fight? There's 40 other people that should have this shot. And then the second one of our guys gets a title shot, we're like, it makes so much sense. Yeah, Carvalho, 10-fight win streak, kick rocks. RDR just beat. So I'm like, so double-edged sword. I wouldn't complain. RDR versus either Khamzat or DDP rules. But I also like Carvalho has just been doing the goddamn thing too. And it would be sick to see the Fighting Nerds get a title because they will not let you hear the end of it if they got a title in that camp.
Yeah, but I love watching Jose just have to like slowly walk himself into the corner of, I mean, yes, obviously Kyle Braulio would deserve it, but like
RDR
probably won't get it and no one will be mad.
I know. It's like, did Mavzar deserve to fight Volkanovski in Miami? Yep. Yes.
Did anyone care?
Did anyone care? Because we got a sick fight with Diego Lopez and Alex Volkanovski? No. It's just MMA for you.
Will Mozart get the next title shot? We don't even know.
Oh, he's going to get the next one. I'm like a terribly unreliable source on this because I'm such a avowed RDR guy. But like my mentions after the Bo Nickal thing flooded with people being like, seeing RDR fight DDP it's the fight I need to see the most. Like if RDR goes and finishes Whittaker, I think he's got too much momentum. Will he deserve it over Kyle Braulio? No. If Braulio or Imavov wins, if they do end up fighting win, that guy would certainly be the most deserving dude. But if RDR taps Whittaker, lock in, baby. He's getting the next fight, man.
It would fully depend. Yeah. If Dricus struggles against Khamzat and vice versa, if the winner doesn't look great and RDR goes out there and just takes a baseball bat to Robert Whittaker, that would make it much more interesting. But if Khamzat and RDR both choke out their opponents in like a minute, just fuck every other middleweight. Make that fight
Just
tomorrow.
lock it in.
Yeah.
If you're Imavov right now, Jed, you're kind of kicking yourself. He didn't really want to take this KO fight. He kind of took himself out of, from what we understand, he's taken himself out of the matchmaking for the time being. Doesn't want to fight Kai. Doesn't really want to fight. He kind of wanted to wait around and see what happens with his title shot and potentially get the next title shot after that. If you're him right now, you're kind of kicking yourself. It feels like the momentum is kind of completely gone from him getting this next title shot without fighting again.
Oh, I'm just sending that text to Sean Selby or Mick Maynard. Okay, I'm in. When I like, I know,
But
like
ASAP, right? Like I want to fight. Like
yeah, like I would just
wait.
text him.
Like
I would have texted him immediately after Saturday. I've been like, all right, tell me when I'm fighting Imavov or fighting Braulio, because like I even at the time, and obviously there's certainly still a little speculation. We have the reports and kind of what we think has happened, but we can't really confirm that, Imavov is like outright rejected this or whatever. It seemed silly at the moment to think that he was going to get a title fight, because there is obviously Khamzat is next. At some point, those two will settle up. And then like in a perfect world, sure, Imavov is the next guy in line, but that's so far out. And Braulio is also on a very good streak. The logical point is these two dudes just fight it out for who gets that shot. I think now he's just going to have to come to grips with the reality of the situation. Is it unfair? A little bit. Like he did just blow up longtime champion Israel Adesanya and is on a great win streak. But life ain't always fair. You're gonna have to fight somebody. It's pretty obviously Braulio. He should just be texting right now. Like, all right, cool. Main event for when are you guys going to Paris again? They go to Paris like once a year at this point. Mm-hmm. Me and Braulio, let's do it there. And that'll be a no doubt about it, because he's gonna have to stake his claim. Because especially the speed with which this has happened, right? Like I didn't anticipate this quickly there'd be like RDR Whittaker rumors. But if this does like come together fast, he is really at risk of getting jumped over here.
Man, I'll tell you, it's fun times right now to middleweight. And look, even though people aren't as pumped for the event, Jose, UFC 315, I've noticed that there's quite a few available seats in the arena. Yeah. I saw people sharing maps, tons of tickets still available, apparently. And the vibe is maybe not the highest over there, Jose, in Canada. Are you feeling the vibe, or is there a vibe at all?
Hard to say. I've pretty much spent the whole time at the Fighter Hotel, and everyone there is just kind of locked in at the UFC. But I can't say over the last few years I've traveled, I've at least seen buses or billboards or bus stops or anything with the posters on it. I have yet to see one UFC poster.
Oh, wow.
Or any, not that they're not out there. I have seen none. When I went through customs, the TSA agent was like, "Oh, what are you entering the country for?" I was like, "The UFC." He's like, "The UFC's in town." Like,
oh wow, okay.
No one seems to know. I don't know if that's because they don't. There's not really a Canadian superstar right now. There's very few Montreal natives on this card. I will tell you, there is a ton of French media, both from France and locally. I think there's like 3 or 4 French outlets. Because of Manon, but they're here for Manon and Benoit. They're not here for like Montreal fighters. They're here because one of their fighters is fighting for the title, and the other one is one of the most popular fighters in France. So hard to say, and the fact that it's hard to say should be telling.
Is it? A lot of people are blaming Belal Muhammad for this, but is it really Belal Muhammad's fault, or is this just the result of a poorly constructed card by the UFC that doesn't have as much star power?
I mean, the fight card, the original fight card was pretty sick. It had Gilbert Burns, Michael Morales. That fight ruled. Benoit, Joel Alvarez, both of them have 100% finish rate. That fight ruled. So the fight, obviously, the Morales Burns fight had to move to an Apex card for whatever reason, and then Joel Alvarez fell out yesterday or 2 days ago or whatever. So the fight card was sick. The fact that Jose Aldo is fighting on this card is like the 4th thing people talk about outside of, is Belal boring? What's Ian Garry doing? Can Jack win and then fight Islam? If Belal wins, what's Islam gonna do? Like, Jose Aldo is like a footnote on this card, and that's a bummer. It seems all the interest around this card is what will happen to other divisions. Like, the main event basically chooses the fate of welterweight and lightweight. Who's going to fight International Fight Week? Who's going to fight in Mexico? Who's going to fight in Perth? Who's going to fight in Chicago? So that seems to be the story. The post-fight press conference is probably going to be more watched than the actual pay-per-view.
Yeah, that's a fascinating one, but a good point right there. Jed, what's the headline going to be the morning after UFC 315, in your opinion?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Because it could go any way, right? I guess that's like Jose's hit the nail on the head. The post-fight press conference and what happens after this, especially if Belal loses, is kind of going to sustain families in the MMA space while these next few cards happen.
So, but the thing is, I don't think it will, right? And like, I know that people are down on this card, and I understand that. I actually think this is a really good card. I think this is a really well-constructed MMA card, but it is a vegetables card. This is a leafy greens card because these fights are good. Objectively, if you're a hardcore fan, you're getting the top welterweight in the world against a legitimate challenger. Not the most deserving, but certainly not like egregious to throw Jack Della in here. And then the co-main event is very obviously the number 1 and number 2 women's flyweights in the world competing. Like those are legitimately, you have at worst, like at absolute worst, I think the second greatest female fighter of all time defending her title against the clear and obvious number 1 contender. That's good MMA. Problem is really high likelihood that both main and co-main are not fun fights to watch. That is 50 minutes of not the most compelling theater that is occurring in the cage. The Jose Aldo fight's a travesty. And then
it's so bad. It still burns me. It still burns me.
It's the worst fight of it. I truly think it might be the worst.
What about the main event of one of these upcoming cards in the next few weeks? God damn it.
Just don't ever put him in this situation. And then, like, to Jose's point, the Benoit Saint-Denis Joel Alvarez fight, it was literally my most anticipated fight on the schedule after like moving forward. And that is the spice to the card. The rest of the card is leafy vegetables. That is the sauce that ties the dish together. And suddenly it's gone. And they can't help that, but that is just what happened. And as a result, and frankly, the way I think these fights are going to end up playing out, I don't know that there's a big headline, right? Like the headline will be a perfunctory Belal Muhammad retains his title. And that's it. Like, because the storylines are not surrounding Belal winning. It's if Belal loses, then Islam comes up and a lot of things happen. But if Belal wins, especially now that it doesn't seem like there's any possibility that Belal jumps up to middleweight, unless he goes completely against what he has said all week, all month, that like he's trying to make a run at the title defense record. Like he's trying to establish himself as the GOAT welterweight. Unless he's like, actually, F that, I want to bump up and I'm going to leave my belt like Ilya did. That seems so far-fetched to believe. And I'm pretty sure Belal's going to win. So then the story's just like, Belal wins. He'll fight Shavkat later this year. And I guess this means Ilya and Islam are going to fight sometime in the next couple of months at lightweight. Like that's, but you can't really even write that headline though. You can't write Belal wins unless they literally announce it in the post-fight presser. Ilya versus Shavkat is like, so I don't know what the headline will be because it's not going to be that interesting.
I think,
but I wonder if that then solidifies this Islam Topuria fight. Like, imagine the UFC just have like everything ready to go one way or the other somehow behind the scenes.
We were talking about this at Media Day, some of the journos, and that's happened before. I can't remember the fight that happened, but remember they announced Chandler and Connor and like the rest of that Miami card at 300. They just kind of had it, and Mike Dan just had it on a piece of paper, and he goes, "Oh yeah, these fights are happening." And like I think he was waiting to see how specific fights played out. Now, I think if Belal wins, I do not think he's going to fight Shavkat next. I don't think Shavkat's going to fight till early next year because of his knee. I think they're going to try and Aljamain Sterling him and get him to a quick turnaround fight in Chicago against Ian Garry, because Chicago is going to be in August. Because I can't imagine the UFC would want. Well, I don't know.
I wouldn't even be that quick a turnaround.
Not that quick of a turnaround. And Belal has wanted to stay active. It would fully depend on how healthy he comes out. Ian said it. And I think that fight would actually make sense for where it is. Ireland has, I mean, I'm saying Chicago has a massive Irish following there. Belal is from there. They currently they haven't technically announced the card, but I think it's like the worst kept secret amongst the MMA media. And if Alex Pereira fights Ankalaev and then you do Belal, Ian as the co-main, that's a sick pay-per-view right there. That's a great 1-2 punch for the top of a pay-per-view, because I can't imagine either of those two guys are going to headline in September in Mexico. I don't think they're going to want to wait for Ankalaev, Pereira for Abu Dhabi, so it would just makes sense to kind of stack that. But again, I don't know where you put Volk then. Also,
Yeah.
it just popped in my head. It's very silly for the UFC to come to Canada during NHL playoffs, where there are a ton of Canadian teams still around, and then charge premium tickets for nosebleed seats. No one's going to want to go. They're going to want to see if the Leafs or the Oilers or whoever else are continue to move on in the NHL playoffs.
I wonder though that would they wait for Buck and Usman though? That's only a few weeks away, right? Before they figure out if they decide.
Yeah, that's a good,
June something.
Yeah, it's like June 15th, I believe.
I think
if they're making a quick turnaround, I don't know, man.
I think.
Well, do you wait? They like to wait now. Maybe they'll wait just to see what happens before Ian gets any of that.
I think Ian is by far been the most talked about fighter here. He had a whole media day to himself. He's weighing in as the backup. Belal called Usman a loser, Colby a loser, and then said, but Ian is doing the right things to get people interested in his fight. So the fact that the champion kind of recognizes that people are interested in that fight is a big deal, I think.
Let's
also, grain of salt. There's a grain of salt here, but Ian did say that like he said he'd take the protest fight on short notice with the understanding that if he won, he got a title shot. So, can't really take that at all the way face value, but it's not nothing.
No.
And not nothing. By the way, just quickly on Alvarez, we've got a question here about him being done at 155.
Yeah, that's true.
Would he be a top 170 guy? What do you guys think, Jed? What do you think?
I've been a massive Joel Alvarez supporter for many years, so I am priced into believing yes. I think 170 is like it's not even I think, like pretty clearly 170 is in this sort of transition phase where a lot of older names are still hanging on, but on their way out. Like if Joel Alvarez got to fight Vicente Luque, pretty sure Joel Alvarez beats Vicente Luque at this phase of his career, which then makes him top 15. I think Joel Alvarez is a guy who is top 15 in either of those weight classes. He's probably never going to be top 5, but goddamn, he's fun. He is so damn fun. He's so dynamic and interesting. And that's like, I'll be sad if he's not a lightweight because there were a lot of fun things, but you tell me Joel Alvarez can go fight Carlos Prates, sign me the hell up, baby. I ain't got a single bit of problem with that.
Oh, baby. That would excite things. That will tickle the pickle. Jose, let's say Ian Garry is next for Belal. Let's say what you guys are saying. Oh, by the way, a little inside information. I was talking to Shavkat's manager just the other day when I did the Pure Dion interview, and I asked him, I said, why haven't we heard from Shavkat? Usually you guys put something out there, and he goes, listen, it's exactly to what you guys said. When it comes to his culture, unless you're ready to go, you don't say anything. So he is still recovering. I don't know if that means he'll be ready or not, but all signs are pointing that it's probably taking a little bit longer than what we thought. And he doesn't want to say stuff online until he's ready to go. So you got to give it to him for sort of sticking to that right now. I would be tweeting my ass off trying to keep myself in the conversation so I don't lose this shot, but he's sure he's going to get it down the track anyway. Ian Garry versus Belal, Jose. Do you think Ian Garry's the guy that can beat him?
Probably not.
It's an interesting chess match.
Yeah, I think Belal is very good mixed martial arts fighter. Is he the most exciting? No, he's not even the most exciting in the welterweight division. Ian Garry probably just beat the most exciting guy in the welterweight division as Carlos Prates.
No, that Joel Alvarez is there.
I mean, MVP. MVP is still doing the damn thing at welterweight too, and he is all kinds of fun. The problem is, Ian can make fights a slog too. He is a safe fighter. He knows how to win. If he learned how to finish a rear naked choke, he would have a whole bunch of submissions in the UFC. He just, can't connect the hands and turn. I don't think Ian's the one to get it done. I think Shavkat is clearly the hardest fight for Belal out there. This version of Sean Brady that we've seen against Gilbert and Leon would be a lot of fun against Belal. But I think Shavkat's clearly the leader, and then it's like an Ian, Sean, Jack. Jack is a hard fucking fight too. You saw like Gilbert Burns. If Gilbert Burns is on top of you, good luck getting up. And not only did Jack get up, he knocked him out. So good luck on that.
Should Belal just fight Islam, Jed? Me and Laura Senka were talking about this. Can we just put this aside? Like, they're not even teammates, right? They're friends. Can we just put it aside for a fight just to see who's the best?
100% they should. It would be I can't stress to you how incredible the headline would be for, Sunday morning if very sneakily, like Islam just flew to Canada. Like we saw the post, Mick Maynard and Islam are hanging out in Dagestan. What if he just is there with the private jet? They're zipping on over, they're taking the red eye. And then Saturday they show up and out of nowhere, like Belal goes in, gets his hand. If Belal doesn't win, obviously this works, but Belal wins. And then Islam's here. Islam walks in the cage.
Khabib
Looks
would
like
be
he's
in the
going to
cage too,
congratulate him. He's going to give him the
Belal.
big hug and say
Yes,
thanks.
yes.
Kicks him right in the balls and is like, let's go. Like, that would be the most epic thing ever. They would obviously never do that. But if they could just be like, hey, man, I got career goals. And as much as you're my friend, I still like, I want to fight for this. And this doesn't have to be personal, but like, you're not going to leave. So can we just fight? Like, that would be cool and good and smart. And it would be all, and that fight is a terrific fight. Like, that fight would be sensational.
It's actually a good fight. That's a good fight. Like, I think Belal actually has an interesting set of skill sets here to actually make this an interesting fight. Like Jose, people are saying, all right, Islam will just destroy Belal. I don't know about that.
I don't
think so either.
That. Yeah.
Belal is a thick welterweight. He's not tall. He's not rangy. He is a tank of a human being. It doesn't seem like 170 is easy to get to. So the fact that he's like, yeah, I could go to middleweight. I believe you. You'd be a short middleweight, but I don't think. But you'd be like one of those, like his shoulders are big. Islam fighting Belal would be an awesome fight. It's just never gonna happen. It's just never gonna happen.
I just wonder what's going to happen in this fight between Belal and JDM. Like, I still have this feeling that I think he can pull it off. Now that we're a little bit closer, Jed, you still think that Belal's the guy that's going to get this done? Like, how do you envision this fight? Do you believe JDM has moments there where he's able to hit Belal, catch him, or do you believe this is going to be parliamentary, in the words of Chris Eubanks Jr.?
Parliamentary is pretty close, unless Jack Della has spent the last year becoming the best defensive wrestler possible, right? Like, all he's done for the past 365 days is stuff takedowns. And I know that he hasn't, because he's been very open that he had like long injury problems that he was dealing with.
Really bad.
Gilbert Burns just took him down at will. Like, Gilbert Burns just took him down so much. And Belal Muhammad is a better wrestler than Gilbert Burns. And he is certainly by no means a sitting duck on the feet. He knows how to use his strikes to set up his takedowns. And he will not slow down. Like, there's not going to be a third round miracle comeback for Jack Della against Belal. Belal is just going to drag you into the water and bury you there. And so, unless, Jackie Three Names pops him early, like just lands real good, real clean, real early, which can never count out. He's a very talented young fighter. It just seems like it's so bad for him stylistically.
What are we expecting in the octagon after the fight between Craig Jones and Belal, Jose? Is this going to be?
Oh my God! I mean, Craig Jones is Craig Jones. Like, I don't know what Craig Jones is going to be doing in an hour, let alone what he's going to be doing after his fighter fights. That man is. I don't know. I have no words about Craig Jones. He is a true oddball in this sport.
All right, as we wrap up, MMA fighting is the place to be for UFC 315. Obviously, Jose, you're on the ground. You'll be doing a great job at the post-fight scrums. One of the hardest working guys out there, doing the socials, doing the damn thing. So make sure to jump on to MMA Fighting for all your live press conferences, all your post-fight press conferences. Support us. Support the independent guys. Support the guys. Don't go to the
Watch
UFC
party
channel.
On Saturday.
Watch party on Saturday. You got the pre-show as well. Jed, break this down for us. How's the day look on MMA Fighting?
We'll do a preview show on Friday. Mike's doing BTL tomorrow. I have no idea who's on that. And then Saturday there's a pre-fight Q&A with Mike Heck and E. Casey Leiden. The event kicks off, and then around like 9 or 9:30, me and Mike go live for the watch party. We're probably going to spend a lot of time talking to y'all, because I really think the two main fights are going to go full 25 on both of those. So maybe I'm wrong, but also, like, looking at this card, there's a really high likelihood that the final four fights all go to decision. Yeah. Like, a really high likelihood. So it could be a longer main card for us on Saturday.
And Jose, will the Celtics be able to win here? What's going on with the
Yes.
Knicks? What
Celtics
happened?
Celtics in 5, baby. Best thing that could happen is that you know who loves that loss the most is Joe Mazzulla, our head coach, because then he'd be like, "Don't let this." He is such a sicko when it comes to that. Like he uses the worst. He uses your nightmares to motivate you, and that's what he's gonna do. Celtics in 5, baby. You heard it here.
Love it. UFC 315 going down this weekend. Gentlemen, thank you for saving me. I appreciate it. Thanks
Anytime,
for joining me
homie.
for another Submission Radio Live. That's it, guys.